Are you going to push for Secretary Mayorkas to be impeached if you become the speaker in January?
I think we'll talk a little bit about that more today. I'm going to go down, sit down with the border agents, get a firsthand knowledge of what is happening today, because I do not trust what Secretary Mayorkas has told the nation. Every fact is what he has said is not true from everything we have seen. But I'm going to go firsthand, get the knowledge with a number of other members, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today.
And I asked McCarthy multiple times if he is planning to impeach Mayorkas. Tried to pry it out of him multiple times. He stood firm. He wouldn't give me a direct answer, only telling me that he'll have more to say about that later today at his press conference here in El Paso. One final thing, he told me that once Republicans take power and if he is speaker, what he's planning to do is hold border hearings physically here at the border in an effort to get Democrats to physically come down here and see the border crisis firsthand. So that
Kevin McCarthy is still trying to position himself for Speaker of the House because they haven't voted yet, even though he did struggle to gain that nomination within his own party. There's a little bit of back and forth, but he's trying to galvanize that for sure as he goes down to the border. Because, if you go to the border, that means you're serious about the immigration issue or anything else that they're making up as it's going through. So he's going to also invite Democrats down there because they won't come down to the border. Hey, Kevin, Democrats go down to the border for photo ops all the time, too. It's the same thing, but you got to get them down here and make sure that they take part in this at the border. Why is he in El Paso? There's a border in California where the state that you say you represent. Regardless, all that is side notes. But the point here is to make sure he coalesces his power, to make sure people think he's got this all together. What is it exactly he's going to do? We don't really know, but maybe impeach Mayorkas. I don't know. Let me just say all these things so that people can maybe build up my clout a little bit more. That's why he's been kissing Donald Trump's ass for a few years now. The press secretary for the White House, for Joe Biden, also responded to this as well. And she had some points here. Let's watch.
I've heard that Mayorkas is, that Kevin McCarthy's at the border. And the question that we have for Kevin McCarthy, who's soon to be Speaker McCarthy, what is his plan? What is he doing to help the situation that we're seeing? What is his plan? He goes down there and he does a political stunt like many Republicans do, that we have seen them do, but he actually is not putting forth a plan to help us deal with an issue that we're all seeing, that you all are reporting. And I mean, one of the things he can do is he can go to Texas Senator Ted Cruz or any members of the Republican caucus from Texas who voted against the president's request for record funding to support the hardworking men and women at the Department of Homeland Security, and whether they'll vote for it when it comes up again. We have put a solution to this. We have said, here are the ways that we can deal with this.
I guess the question now, Jackson, is this next and latest political stunt going to work? Number one, for him to get enough votes to get that very much coveted speakership position, but then also to convince voters that they're doing something.
Well, again, I think he'll get as many votes as he was ever going to get. And like you pointed out, and I hadn't even thought about it initially, but like you pointed out, is he could have just gone to the California border, but it's more of a blue state. So, you go to Texas and it works out a little better like that. But the reality is that it is true that the Republican Party's more hawkish on immigration. It is true, but the Democrats are as well. As we know, Barack Obama was nicknamed the Porter in Chief. And many of the border policies that Donald Trump put into place, Joe Biden hasn't gotten rid of. And we know also the Democratic Party's history, even within my lifetime, of things like the crime bill and just, the way the Democratic Party typically pans to corporate interest. So there's no open borders. No country has open borders. That's not a thing. We have a process, and they know that. And was pointed out by the White House press secretary, the Republican Party has absolutely no plans, not just only to address this, but anything else. So that's really their biggest issue.
That's actually part of the plan, is to not do anything. In fact, in many cases that you can, as you point out, Ted Cruz voting against some of these potential solutions, because we can't have solutions. We can't have advancement. Things can't be solved in the country. If things get solved, what am I gonna bitch and complain about before I run my next campaign about how much I didn't help? It's a cycle, it's a process. They know most Americans don't have the time to pay attention to all of these back and forth and which ones are sabotaging it versus saying they're doing something. All of it, that's why he's going down to the border. That's why he wants the press conference at the border. So, man, look at this. I'm here. This is the first time Democrats have come down. That's the process, that's the thought process. We'll see if it works. It's worked so far, so I don't see why it would stop now.
Yeah.
But the infighting just might be the one thing that derails him because they want power too. It's a bunch of criminals in the room trying to divide up the money.